So, what'd you do this weekend? Because we're done. We had a nice long weekend. I don't know about you, but the weather was fucking shitty as hell here. Thankfully, I was working the whole time, so
You can't ask me what I did this weekend yet.
and it was perfect because I had to work. So, wait, why can't I ask you? I
We
just
haven't
did.
started the episode yet.
We haven't?
No.
I thought we started.
No.
I thought we were almost done.
No, we have a guest. We have vidja games to talk about.
Oh, so we're going to talk about his weekend too? Everybody gets a weekend?
Well, you didn't have a weekend. You were at work all weekend.
I had a weekend. I had like 3 weekends. I actually had stuff going on this weekend. Stuff happened this weekend.
You literally
No,
just
I said I didn't play video games. That doesn't mean stuff didn't happen this weekend.
No, nothing happened unless you were playing video
No,
games.
stuff happened. Stuff happened. See, you're settled in, you're breathing deep, you're set, right? I mean, we're good.
Can you hear that?
I can.
What does it sound like to you?
Somebody swallowing or drinking water or pooping?
Here's what we have to start with. We have to start by saying, hello, listener. Welcome to Unqualified, a video game podcast, episode 43. I'm Cody, and this is Jon, and we're going to talk about...
It's official. The episode
official?
is now legitimate. It is official.
Now, that's literally what I just said.
I know. You have legitimized the episode.
I can't legitimize the episode because it's not...
No, the episode is legitimized.
No, because we're unqualified, and if we legitimize the episode, then we are qualified.
Wait, so what did you do this weekend?
I can't tell you what I did this weekend until we add our guests. So wait until you see an image that I'm going to upload to our Google Plus and Tumblr pages. Right now, I have a small tripod on which my microphone sits.
Okay.
So there's a microphone, and then it's inside of a shock mount, which is one of those things so that if you bump into it, it bounces and it doesn't make a huge amount of noise.
Listener, just so you know, I use a $30 headset that I bought off of Amazon that I've had for, 3 years, 4 years?
That's why I sound marginally better than you. I'm not done. So, I add filters to your voice to make you sound better, by the way.
I think that's fucking bullshit. I think I sound beautiful. I think I am beautiful.
You do sound and look gorgeous.
I am beautiful every single day.
Especially with your flowing locks. However, I am better.
I am beautiful no matter what they say.
Not I sound better.
Words can't bring me down today.
I'm just better. So, I have that on a little tripod, and what I've noticed is my desk height is... low. It's low. My desk is not a tall desk, and my chair is a higher chair. Point is...
And you are a tall man. You are a tall individual.
I'm very tall. I have a large torso. Long torso, even. Point is, in order for us to record previous episodes, I would have to kind of, not hunch, but tilt forward a bit, because the microphone wasn't really at my height. So, I have placed something underneath the tripod to prop it up higher. But the thing is, it had to be something, at least 8 or 9 inches wide. That's what she said. In order for all the legs of the tripod to fit, it was hard to put it on something. I couldn't even put it on like a big book.
Okay.
I had to find a box, perhaps. So it's on a box. It looks incredibly low budget, which is what we are. So that's appropriate.
We are definitely low budget.
But I will put a photograph in on our little accounts. Perhaps I'll even Instagram one. People should be following me on Instagram. It's just instagram.com/CodyGoff. It's my first and last name. It's not hard to find me.
That was a very interesting anecdote that went nowhere. Congratulations.
I'm going to post a photo and it'll be funny.
No, it will be pretty good. I think you're right. I'm laughing right now. I don't think it's funny.
We have a guest host today. A guest co-host, I guess.
We've got a ghost?
We have a ghost. And now, are you gonna? Are you going by your full first last name? Do you have
I go by me. I am Jamie Butterworth. not related to the sticky fortunes, unfortunately.
So Jamie is a super fan, right? Like, you're somebody who found us on Google Plus, which we really appreciate, and have been following us kind of since we really started pushing the podcast on Google Plus.
Correct.
And you've been interacting with us quite a bit, and we really appreciate that. Like, that's the thing that I think we like the most. I know I'm speaking for Cody when I say this, because I'm allowed to do that. But we like that interaction definitely the most of all of the things we get to do with this podcast. And you obviously very much like video games.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Absolutely.
Yeah, and just to clarify, Jamie, and I will give you a chance. We promise we will let you talk at some point.
Debatable.
After maybe. But you also, and I was almost reluctant to book you on the show. I'm going to say that I booked you, because that sounds really professional.
I'm a very busy person, very busy.
Yes, so thank you for that. So I had to book you. I was a little reluctant because I believe you, well, I know you're on another podcast regularly, correct?
Correct.
And plug that right now, just so everybody knows where to go to hear more of you.
Yes, it's the Gamers at Large podcast on Quan Manchu's YouTube channel. We only get a couple hundred listeners each week, but it seems to be growing every week. And we have other minor YouTube personalities on there as well. So it's fun times.
Yes, Quan Manchu. I'm on. He's in my Google Plus circle. He's in our Google Plus circles. And as if that weren't bad enough, as if that didn't make you almost qualified enough, you write stuff about video games. Is that a regular deal too?
I do, actually. I recently reached out to the guy that runs PlayerEssence.com. His name is Francis. And I was like, hey, man, I recently wrote a book and published it. I play a lot of games. My Google Plus group loves all the reviews I write for them. I want to write for you. So he was like, yeah, sure, why not?
I just spat my water out. That's what that was.
Good spit
I
take.
am probably the most qualified person on this podcast to discuss video games.
Oh my god. John, what are we going to do?
I don't know. Well, we're still in the proper position then in hosts of Unqualified, a video game podcast, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, that's... In fact, if anything, we should be inviting guests into the show that know more about video games than we do.
Well, I believe we've done that. So that's good.
Perfect.
But before we get into video games, we're also human beings. I'm working on that with the whole cyborg thing that I have.
Also debatable.
Yes. And we had weekends. Weekends are a thing that happened. So let's get to know our guest. Jamie, what did you do this weekend? Anything exciting?
Well, this past weekend, what did I do? Oh, yes, I went to go see Gravity in IMAX 3D. That was like my big crowning achievement for the weekend.
I did as well.
Oh, it's so good. So good.
What'd you think, John?
It was excellent. My wife did not like it. Not her cup of tea. We also saw Prisoners over this weekend as well. That was much more her style. Both excellent films, very different.
Prisoners.
Yeah.
Did your girlfriend like Gravity, Jamie?
Yes, she absolutely adored it.
All right, so that's 3 upvotes and 1 down vote. That puts that on Reddit's second page.
Ooh, I think it could have been a first pager, really. I think we need more datas.
Was that good, though, really?
Yeah, dude.
It was excellent.
Yeah, do either of y'all ever pay attention to RottenTomatoes.com? It's running at 98% right now on that website.
98?
Yeah, it's one of the highest movies I've ever seen on that website.
That's pretty exciting. So you did that. John, you had some story you were about to just preemptively launch into. I've actually cut you off 6 times trying to start this story before we started this episode. So for the love of God, just tell me what you did this weekend.
Okay, so I saw Gravity and I saw Prisoners. Those are 2 things that happened. I also worked all weekend. So that basically, those events kind of took up my entire weekend, right? However, today, but just before this podcast, my wife and I went and we had our first real ultrasound for the pregnancy. I've mentioned.
Oh my God, is this the one?
It is. So I've mentioned before that my wife is pregnant, and so we are now a little bit over 19 weeks along. We're going to be at 20 on Friday, and traditionally, like the 20-week mark is where you go to get the gender screening to figure out what type of baby you're having if you want that information, which we do. So we went to this ultrasound today, and we did the whole thing, except we got the gender, and it's a puppy. No, it's not a puppy. It's we had them seal off the gender, and Casey's my wife. Casey's sister is going to take it to a bakery and get the color of the gender, blue for boy, pink for girl, baked into cupcakes, and then this weekend we're going to have a gender reveal party.
Oh my God.
I will preface this by saying that we're doing this because I live in Minnesota, my family lives down in Rockford. We're kind of doing this as an excuse to get my family up here because it gives them an excuse to come up and actually participate in the pregnancy.
Dude, I would do it as an excuse for cupcakes. That's just me.
Sure. So that's all. That was all cool. And the ultrasound. I've seen ultrasounds in movies, in TV shows, and so I figured I would be like, yeah. Like I know what to expect coming in here, but holy crap, is it not the coolest thing? Seeing like a baby move around in there. So it was really cool. Honestly, it was really freaking cool. But I was at work and I was talking to one of my coworkers and I was explaining to her what we were doing. I was like, we're gonna get this ultrasound, and then, but we're not gonna know. Like we're gonna seal off the results, and then this weekend we're gonna have a baby sex party. And I legitimately said that, and she just kind of looked at me and she's like, "You having a what?" And I'm like, wait. So that didn't come out right. That's not what I meant.
Nope.
And she was like, no, I don't think that's what you meant. And I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty sure those aren't legal here in the United States, actually. So that was the funny part of that story was, we're gonna have a baby sex party on this weekend, and I will get to kind of officially know the gender of my child. So that's pretty awesome. It was pretty awesome.
Yeah, that kicks our weekend's asses.
Well, it wasn't part of the weekend, so it doesn't count, right? It was Monday.
Aha! We win!
You do win. It wasn't part of my weekend. So, Cody, what'd you do this weekend? Anything exciting? Did you have a baby sex party?
I did. Oh, boy. Would that I could have. I literally do not recall doing anything exciting this weekend.
To be fair, you just got over, and we mentioned this on the show the last time, like a really large project, right?
That is fair, and I was so vague about it on the last episode. It's live now. All I'm going to say is that I worked on it, so I don't think I'm going to get in trouble from any legal teams for mentioning this. But if you go to the Head and Shoulders YouTube page, youtube.com/Head and Shoulders, we have this. There is now a thing on the Head and Shoulders for Men YouTube page, and you can kind of put Head and Shoulders hair to the test by typing in anything you can think of. It's Troy Polamalu plays for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and he's kind of one of the Head and Shoulders guys, You can test Troy's hair, so you can Troy's hair pass the blank test? You fill in the blank, and it'll pull up a video of his hair being tested. I won't give any details as to how it works or how many videos there are or how many words will function or anything like that. I won't give any of it away because probably most of it's confidential anyway. But it is fun. So go there, type in some words, maybe try a video game character or two, and it's a good time.
But the point is you worked super hard on this, put in crazy hours last week, so I don't think anybody would fault you for kind of taking a weekend and not kind of vegging out, right? I mean,
honestly, I had, there were a couple things Friday I was supposed to do, and I took a nap right when I got home, and I woke up and I was just like, I am done.
Yep.
I am done with it. I'm over it. So I played Wind Waker HD, which we're definitely going to talk WiiU with Jamie in a couple minutes. I played a lot of Rogue Legacy. I picked that up again. Fantastic game. Love that game.
Can't wait. Yeah, I can't wait to hear more of your opinion on that. Since we only touched on what you thought about it before.
Yeah, and I probably won't talk much about it this episode, but maybe next week. But it's just a really, really fun game. And I started to delve into Civilization 5 multiplayer.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, because our friend Will was online. He said, how about some Civ 5? I had never played the multiplayer. God, it's so fun when you're playing with friends.
It's pretty good.
So fun. My God. If I see you on Steam, would it be too forward if I don't know how to...
I mean,
exactly.
I would like breakfast afterwards, but I think we could arrange that.
Okay, great. Pancakes it is, and maybe a game sandwich.
Ah, man, it's delicious. So,
Right, all right. Our stories were much, much longer than Jamie's I Saw Gravity. Jamie, was there anything else you wanted to say about your weekend that we totally cut you off about?
My weekend was just like work, Gravity, some Wind Waker, and like trying to get the girlfriend to remember for the 20th time how to get to our new apartments we're moving to.
Oh. Are you cohabitating for the first time?
Well, it's an awkward situation. I'm just going to leave it at that. But yes, we're moving into our own apartment together.
Good to know.
Way to derail that, Cody. That's wonderful. You really did your homework. You really did your homework on our guest. Congratulations.
Listen, this podcast is nothing if not an awkward situation. Okay, I think we can all agree on that one. And I always do, every Friday I post on Google Plus, hey fans, let us know what you're playing this weekend. And apparently everyone is playing Pokemon this weekend in anticipation of Pokemon X and Y.
Yeah, I'm actually thinking about getting it myself.
I reserved mine today.
You have a 3DS?
I do, yeah.
You both, oh my god. See, Jamie, I knew you'd have a 3DS because I know you're a pretty diehard Nintendo fan, which I don't fault you for that. I would have a 3DS if I could afford one at the moment. But yeah, man.
No, I love my 3DS. That's a fantastic system.
I have not actively, really wanted a 3DS until Pokemon X and Y, and that's so strange to me because I haven't played since Blue, Red, and Yellow.
You know what it is? It's this going back to the Pokemon of the original Pokemon that you remember from a kid. So there's a strong nostalgia to this upcoming game.
Wait, there is?
Yeah.
I haven't read anything about it. All I know is there's Mega Evolutions.
Yeah, but they're basically going back to a bunch of the original Pokemon. Like, there's going to be a bunch of the original Pokemon in this game.
Yeah, you actually get two different starters. For one, you get one of the starters. It's one of the new, 3 Pokemon. And then shortly thereafter, you get another starter, which is either, I believe it's Charizard, Bulbasaur, or Squirtle, I believe. But I mean, I can definitely see the nostalgia factor, because I mean, you got X and Y, and X is blue, and Y is red, so I mean, it all fits right there.
I didn't realize that. So, John, word on the street is you did not play a whole lot this week?
Yeah, I mean, with work, and then kind of the double date nights that we had with the movies, and I was stuck doing basically just Soulforge and Infinity Blade 3 and in very small portions. I did restart Dark Souls because I downloaded it at some point during the Steam sale. I now own Dark Souls, by the way, on three different versions of that game. So I need to find a way to unload at least one of them. But I restarted Dark Souls because I bought it for $3 on Steam at some point, and there's apparently, and I did some digging, and there's a mod that some creator made to make it run at 60 frames per second, which, if you know anything about Demons and Dark Souls, one of the big criticisms is that they kind of run like shit on consoles. So, and the Steam port without any modifications is, from all accounts, one of the worst PC ports ever made.
Ooh.
It's stuck at a 1024 by 7 whatever it is resolution, where, as you know, every monitor goes up to at least 1900 by 1600 now, if not further.
Yeah. So
it's stuck at that resolution, and you can't unlock that without some sort of modification. So I was excited because I was like, hey, I've got this hooked up to my TV downstairs, and I would like to see what it looks like on this big screen. It runs awesome. So I'm going to start playing through that again. I don't know if I ever talked about Dark Souls on this show, but it's a game that I have now started and played 20 hours of twice, and just get if you know anything about this game, it's very easy to just stop playing it because it is not an easy game.
Oh.
At all. So
you like the challenging games too.
Oh, it's very challenging. But it's very old school in terms of its kind of brutal difficulty. So it's a very brutal game, and I'm hoping that I can stick with it a little more this time when I actually play through it. So that was the other thing that I did. But otherwise, it was a pretty uneventful weekend for gaming for me. I had real life stuff happening.
Yeah, real life stuff. Whatever. Well, part of the reason that I thought this would be a good week to have Jamie on is because we recently did our episode in which I reviewed Wind Waker HD, and that was a lot of fun. Jon, you had a couple issues with the Wii U-ish. It's Nintendo's kind of overarching strategy, and we've mentioned this. This is not a bad thing at all because I consider myself this as well. But Jamie's a pretty big Nintendo fanboy. And again, we all like Nintendo on this podcast. Like, we'll just put that out there.
This is a safe place.
It's a very safe place. Unless you're having a baby sex party. Yeah. In which case...
It's super safe.
Super safe. So, but I thought we'll get maybe a couple of Jamie's thoughts on Wind Waker HD. Won't go into a huge amount of detail, just because I've talked about it quite a bit. But let's talk a little bit about Wii U. And first of all, Jamie, how long have you had your Wii U?
I've had mine since early December last year, so shortly after release.
Okay, so shortly after release. And what is it specifically that kind of struck you that you think we may have missed? I know the first thing I realized was we totally forgot to mention there's a camera in the gamepad.
Camera and microphone and stereo speakers.
Right, which some games do utilize, like Zombie U has what's it called? When you can take a picture of somebody and it turns them into a zombie right away. It's augmented reality, right?
Yep, something like that.
Yes. So it's got augmented reality. So there's like, oh, I forgot the camera in the controller. Okay, so stuff like that. What do you think we missed the mark on that you think that you may disagree with a little bit?
Well, the biggest thing was when Jon was discussing gamepad usage with games in particular, because he was stating in specific, well, I'd like to see more games that require the use of the gamepad for this or that or the other thing.
Sure.
The big thing for me with that, there are a few that absolutely are reliant on the gamepad. For example, Lego City Undercover, Zombie U, games like that. But games that don't require it, it's a big bonus is the off-TV play. And, especially with the recent update where they actually added regular Wii off-screen TV play. So you can play your Wii and your gamepad, except you can't use the controls for it. But they're getting there. But
how does that work if you can play? So you can play the Wii games obviously on the gamepad now. Does that include, emulators if you run the homebrew channel?
That's a good question. That's a good question, actually. Because I don't know if you can get the homebrew channel on the Wii U or not. I don't know enough about that, to be honest.
Oh, you can.
Okay.
I have my ear close to the modding community,
Gotcha.
Much to Jon's chagrin. I'm not stealing as many games as you probably think I am. But I do like to run my emulators on there, so there's that. But that was just a random question. Anyway, sorry, continue.
But yeah, I don't see why you wouldn't be able to do anything on the Wii U running in the Wii emulation mode on the gamepad that you would normally be able to do. Like, I don't know if you noticed or not, but there's actually a sensor bar in the Wii U gamepad. There's two little sensors right next to the camera on the gamepad, so you can actually use your Wiimote to point at the gamepad screen.
Jon, your thoughts? Did you know that?
So I did, and so all this is fine. And if I recall correctly, which I think I do because I said it, I said that using an off-screen mode is a legitimate use of the gamepad. Right. Like that to me is okay. But that being said, like, this backwards compatibility to be able to play Wii games on the gamepad is cool, but we're still not talking about new experiences at this point.
Right. So let's talk about new experiences then.
Sure. And one of the reasons why I was really excited to have you on the show is because you played the Mighty 101.
Yes, Wonderful 101.
Wonderful
Indeed.
101, which is a game that by Platinum, which I have said before is one of my favorite developers. And is not something that you can get on any other system. It is if there is a game that I will be buying a Wii U for, and eventually I will be getting one, it is the Wonderful 101. Simply
worth every penny.
Simply because of Platinum's reputation and just their library of games. So this is why I was excited to have you on, because you have played through this now completely.
Completely, yes, on normal mode. I want to get to hard next.
And I figured we'd get into the deep dive into Wonderful 101.
Oh yeah.
You go balls out. Just wanted to touch just wanted to hit a couple Wii U things first.
Well, I think it's a great segue into it, because I think it's the game that probably is the best argument for, at least right now, if either that or Zombie U, as to why this gamepad can be a functional extra utility piece to play games on, right?
Lego City Undercover also I would highly recommend.
Okay.
The Lego games are really fun, actually, John. Not just from a 7-year-old perspective, but
I don't doubt it, but I don't know if they're necessarily I don't know if they're my cup of tea, right? So I
don't know if they're mine either, but I've read one or two of the Lego games got insane reviews, and I can't remember. It might have been the Star Wars one or something, but one or two of those games have gotten overall really good, worth checking out reviews.
Let me tell you this about Lego City Undercover, and keep in mind, every Grand Theft Auto game I've played, and I have not played 5, so I'm just going to leave that one out of the discussion because it looks awesome. But every Grand Theft Auto game I've played to this point, I have not enjoyed as much as I enjoyed Lego City Undercover. I mean, there's just something to be said about having 7 different costumes. They all do different things. Having this gigantic city to wander around in and do Grand Theft Auto type things, but all Lego-fied. It was just I felt like being a kid again, but running around and hijacking cars.
I kind of like that.
That sounds pretty good. I mean, that's certainly how I like Saints Row.
But it's not John's cup of tea. John is more of a chamomile guy, I think.
I am. I'm more into the herbals.
Yeah.
Kind of a lemon as well. Lemon pepper tea.
Lemon pepper. Ooh,
I don't know. I just made that up. I don't think that's a thing. I don't think that exists.
That's fish. I'm pretty sure that's fish.
So, plus I feel like Wonderful 101 would be a black tea with a whole lot of caffeine. If anything, Lego City Undercover is the chamomile.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So,
but let's get into the black tea then, I guess.
Right, but then, like I said, I think it's a great segue, because what I want reasons that the gamepad exists outside of streaming it to your device, because this streaming technology, while cool to have it on this gamepad, is going to be everywhere in 10 years, right? I mean, you're going to our phones are going to be able to stream.
Right.
You're going to be able to get some sort of dongle device. Hell, Steam is going to do this. You're going to get some sort of dongle that you're going to plug into your computer, and you're going to be able to zap it to anything. So that technology, while cool now, will be dated eventually. So I want a reason why this is an essential functional piece of the gaming pie. And so that is what you are going to tell me with the Wonderful 101.
Indeed. All right, so Wonderful 101, let's take it from the top. All right, of course, the general gist of the game is that you're one of 100 different heroes, and technically the extra one for the 101 is you, the player.
Aww.
All right, so you're basically, I guess the best way to put it is you're 100 little Power Rangers is the best way to put it. But of course, when you start out, you have 20 or 30 different guys, but you can recruit civilians and policemen and whatever else that are just kind of hanging around by drawing a simple circle around them on the gamepad itself. Now, keep in mind, when you look down at the gamepad itself, all you see are little green dots that kind of signify the people you are, and then other differently colored dots that signify, enemies or groups of people to recruit, things like that. So you can just look at the gamepad if you even need to, and just sketch a circle or sketch a sword or whatever you need to do on that to actually draw weapons or perform combos or whatever you need to. And of course, as you're going along, you're increasing the size of your party as well. So you eventually will get to 100. Later in the game, you can get up to 200, but that's a big story thing I'm not going to go into, obviously.
Now, what's the scale that we're talking about, like, on the screen? Like there's going to be... That's a ton of people, then. How big are they? Like, are they tiny, tiny, tiny?
They're fairly tiny. They're fairly tiny. Like, I would say, honestly, if you take Pikmin and you mix it with Beautiful Joe, then you've got a basic gist of what Wonderful 101 looks like.
I like both of those art styles.
See, exactly. It's good stuff. But I mean, the game itself, the actual gameplay, I'm going to tell you at first, it takes a little getting used to. It really does. But as you're playing the game and as you're kind of getting used to the controls, you're just getting significantly better and better and better. And you're experimenting with it. Maybe you're using the right stick to draw some stuff, but occasionally you're doing circles in the gamepad or whatever else. But you eventually get to a tipping point where you're not even looking at the gamepad anymore. You're just drawing things, like, quickly on the gamepad. Draw a gun, draw a whip, draw claws, draw whatever. It's especially when you're in the middle of a combo. I mean, there were times later in the game, once I had all the different heroes I could have, where I didn't want to interrupt a combo by having to do something on the right stick or looking at the gamepad. So I would just do motions with my left hand, thumbs nowhere near the sticks, while I'm jamming on the buttons to perform combos and drag out extra guys. And, keep in mind that if you have anyone you play local multiplayer with, you can play up to 5 people at once locally on this game. I wasn't really even touching the right or left control stick when I was in the middle of a battle, because all I was doing was using my left hand to actually draw out each different weapon or each different shape I needed to use, and then alternating either between the X button to actually throw out an extra teammate that's using the sword or the fist or the hammer or whatever, and then doing combos by myself. Because the more you're doing these combos, the more damage you're doing to the enemy. And of course, the higher the multiplier, then of course the more damage you're doing as well at the same time.
So I don't think I really understand the way that combat is working here.
Okay.
So you're drawing stuff on the gamepad. That makes that makes sense. So, like, what are you drawing and what does it do?
All right. So let's run down the list here. So for basic combat, you've got, if you draw a quick circle, that's the fist. If you draw a straight line, that's the sword. If you draw kind of a curvy S line, that's the whip.
And these are things these are like weapons you use in the game?
They're weapons you use in the game, and the longer you actually draw, or the bigger you draw the symbol, the more Wonderful 101 that are drawn into this weapon, the more powerful it is and the larger it is. So if you just draw like a quick, sword line and get like, let's say 10, 15 of your teammates in it, it's going to be, a little sword, does some damage, so on and so forth. But if you draw like a diagonal line all the way across your gamepad and you get 100 people in it, it's this massive hulking monstrosity used to slice everything in range.
Because the characters, these 100 characters, form into the shape of these weapons, right?
Correct.
So that's it, yeah. And if John, it's a hard game to describe. So that's part of why I'm letting you do it, because I played the 10-minute demo at E3, and I can definitely back up your claim about it being hard to get used to, because. Yes. I mean, I'm standing on a show floor with a lot of buzz going around, and there's a really gorgeous Nintendo booth model, talking me through it. Very friendly. Those girls are so sweet. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot going on, but other games I was able to grasp more easily. This one I could tell had a bit of a learning curve, but you're saying that evens out.
Exactly. I mean, like anything Platinum, the more you play, the better you get, the more you get the controls, and you eventually get to a point where you're just, spanking the hell out of everything, because you're just getting that much better. But even when you're doing that, you're still getting your teeth kicked in, and still, there's a lot to learn. Like, after I beat the game on normal and I saw the credits, the computer was showing me how to do things I had no idea how to do.
Yeah, that really is like every Platinum game.
Yeah. But, I think a good comparison I could give you, John, I assume you played Bayonetta, right?
Oh my god, I love Bayonetta.
Okay.
I freaking love that game.
You and me both. Okay, here's the thing. Up until Wonderful 101, Bayonetta was my favorite action game. Wonderful 101 has taken that crown now.
That's pretty good. That's good to hear.
You want to know when that happened? It was when I was piloting a 100-foot tall mech against a 200-foot tall mech in a game of Punch-Out in the middle of a raging volcano.
That sounds like a Platinum game, for the love of God. So just like other Platinum games, then are there basically almost? Does it almost feel like there are like non sequiturs in terms of like jumping from one thing to the next? Like does the gameplay change? Because in some Platinum games, a lot of times the gameplay may change like dramatically as to what you're doing. Like in Bayonetta, when you get into that motorcycle chase. Mm-hmm. Out of absolutely nowhere, right? So like, and then there's a motorcycle level. Like, is there that kind of stuff too?
There is a bit of that actually. You know, like I said about piloting the giant mech, or you're piloting the ship, or you're doing a a take on the old school game Zaxxon. You know, the whole isometric ship flying through space, shooting things. And lots of different things like that. They do switch around a lot. There's a lot to it. And the funny thing is, even with all this going on, and when you look at the game and the graphical style, you wouldn't really think this, but there's actually a really deep and involved story. I absolutely loved the story in it. Really? Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, one of the other things that Platinum does is they have, even if their stories aren't necessarily the most comprehensible, mm-hmm. They are at least interesting.
Right.
So, is this another similar case? Like, is there some stuff that's just batshit crazy?
Well, I mean, the entire game's batshit crazy, but as to the story itself, it's actually pretty easy to follow. I didn't run into anything that was confusing. There were quite a few twists and turns in it, but I mean, the whole thing was actually really well done. Now, there is an issue with the game. There's one glaring issue with it, and that's the camera. The camera is the worst part. It doesn't always get in the way, but there are times when you just need to make a jump, and you'll miss it like 4 times in a row. But I mean, the good thing is, if you die or if you fall off a stage like that, I mean, if you fall off a stage, you just pretty much put right where you missed the jump, so that's not really an issue. You just lose a little bit of life and you move on. If you die, you do have to continue, but you're put back pretty much at the same spot. So I think Platinum kind of realized that might be an issue, and they're pretty forgiving on you.
And now, listener, so we keep talking about Platinum now, and it's very obvious that Jamie and I both like this developer. If you don't know anything about this developer, so this is the same developer that made they kind of stormed out of the scene with the game Mad World for the Wii in 2009. It was a game that was in black and white with like hyper-violence. And then they released Bayonetta later in that year, and that was kind of their first really large like product that people were like, what the hell is this game? But a lot of the criticisms of that are that the story was you could not follow the story, but the gameplay was so good that it carried the game. In 2010, they came out with a game called Vanquish, which was this incredible third-person shooter, just absolutely incredible third-person shooter. And then I think last year they made Anarchy Reigns, and they also made Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance, which came out this year, The Wonderful 101, and then they are working on Bayonetta 2, which is coming out whenever.
They made Revengeance?
They made Revengeance.
So, I haven't played that yet.
They have this pedigree of action games that's just, like, solid. Like, it is what they do. So if you haven't played any of those games, you should treat yourself to at least one of them. I know you can get Bayonetta for a song right now, but if you have a Wii U, it sounds like The Wonderful 101, totally worth getting. Does it have some of that Platinum difficulty to it? Because that's another thing about Platinum, is that like they are non-forgiving.
Oh yeah, I mean the game kicks your teeth in and does not apologize for it. I mean the thing about the game though is every enemy has some sort of a trick to it. Usually you have to be using the right kind of weaponry, and you have to get the timing right, and you have to block at the right time, or so on and so forth, but most every enemy has some sort of a trick to make the fights a little bit easier, which is all and good until they throw 2 or 3 of them at you, which are like 100 times larger than, one of your little guys. But you can perform, climb attacks, which basically just throw little 101s up basically upon these guys to add to your combo multiplier. And they do a little bit of damage, but it's good for getting your multiplier up, increasing your score, and helping to overall smooth out your damage over time. So when you're actually getting into Wonderful 101 and you're learning the combos and you're doing the climb attacks and you're doing all of this stuff, you start to learn how best to defeat these enemies, and it gets less difficult. But still, every so often, just something comes out of nowhere, kicks you in the face, and says, "You want some more, don't you?"
Now, when you get hit, or like when damage occurs in the game, what like do some of your Wonderful 101 die? I mean,
They don't really die. The thing with the Wonderful 101 is every member of the team has a little pendant, and the pendant basically gives you a super costume, is the way to put it. When Wonderful 101s take damage, aside from the main character, when they take damage, it knocks their costume off. So they get knocked out, they get knocked, they get knocked away a few feet, and they're more or less unconscious. They get little stars flung on their head, this sort of thing. But you run over to them and you touch them, and they get right back up. So sometimes when you're in the really hectic battles, you have to run around and keep collecting your guys that keep getting beat up. And there are plenty of times where you might not take damage, but the enemies are hitting your other guys. So you're still having to either ignore them because they get up on their own in like 5-10 seconds, and continue on, or just keep collecting them.
Okay, and then like where does the game over happen? Everything gets knocked out?
Well, the game over happens with your main character. Your main character is the only one that actually takes real damage. So I mean, it's entirely possible that you can keep having your entire team knocked out, but you're not taking any damage. If you're just really good at avoiding damage, that can happen pretty frequently. But I mean, there's plenty of times when you're just taking plenty of damage right in the middle of fighting, and your team is still there with you. So you just have to work around that.
So it sounds like there's a lot of combos in this. Like,
oh yeah.
Does it play like? Because I confession, I've never played a Platinum game. Mm-hmm. Somehow, I'll probably play Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance at some point, since I'm a Metal Gear guy, and clearly would like to play Wonderful 101. But I'm a Ninja Gaiden guy. Mm-hmm. That's my like action game like this pedigree, and you kind of develop some combos at some point. Is it manageable? I mean, do you have to like really play this game a lot to get really good at these combos? Because it sounds like you're stringing them together like it's nothing.
Well, like I said, as you play, you get used to actually stringing the combos together. I'm not as good as I'm making myself sound, but you do get used to it, especially once you get Wonder Black later in the game. He has bombs that slow down time. And when you use him as an assist, instead of actually making him a main, like, when I say assist, I mean, you draw out the bomb on your gamepad, and you hit X instead of A, and basically he tosses the bomb while you're doing whatever you're doing. So that ends up slowing enemies down, builds your combo, you can throw out more assists, you can switch into another weapon and keep going. But that makes it easier, and makes it easier to learn how to do these combos. So I honestly expect, for the first half of the game, you'll just kind of struggle through it, getting used to it as you move along, but by the end of the game, you're gonna at least feel like a pro until you watch the credits.
Yeah, I mean, Bayonetta had combos in it that all their combos are pre-canned. Like they have made the combos in a certain way, but to actually execute them in a manageable fashion is not easy. It's never easy, really, in any Platinum game. So it's just something that takes a lot of getting used to.
Right. Now here's a question for you, Cody. Are you familiar with a studio called Clover? They did Okami, they did Beautiful Joe, they did a number of games like that. I'm
definitely familiar with both. I love Okami.
Okay. Because Clover, Platinum Games was Clover. They just changed the name.
Oh, that explains the art style. There you go. Problem solved. Mystery solved, rather.
So technically you have played a Platinum game.
Technically I have played it, yes. And I have no aversion to playing a Platinum game. I just wasn't really super familiar with it. I've heard of all the games John mentioned. And in fact, Bayonetta 2, you could demo at E3, and funnily enough, I just didn't have interest because I hadn't played the first one.
Right.
I mean, it looked cool, but I mean, there's also a zillion other games that I had to demo. But yes, Okami is I really like Okami. Like a lot. So I have a feeling this might be up my alley. And not for John's sake, but kind of to go full circle to the beginning of our discussion about utilizing the gamepad.
Right.
Creating these weapons, is that the only function of the gamepad, or are there pause, like inventory functions or anything along those lines?
Lots of inventory functions on the fly. You can go through it and check out little help menus to see, because a lot of times you'll learn things right in the middle of combat. Like your little wonderful 101s will actually level up in combat. I don't think there's really an experience ticker or anything that I've found. But each of the little guys that you pick up do level up, and as they level up, you can get, health boosts, so you'll learn a new move here or a new move there. So if you need to know how to do it, you can just press the little help menu and see how to do it right on the gamepad without breaking gameplay. Also, you can select between different inventory items, which you would just hold up on the D-pad to actually use. Things like health restoration or energy restoration or missiles or anything like that. All that is on the gamepad. Now, it's worth noting, even though you draw on the gamepad, you can take it off screen. So you can play on the gamepad itself the entire game. You have to use the right stick in order to draw your circles, or draw your symbols, which just takes extra time, but it can be done. The tricky thing about that is there are points where you have to go indoors. And when you go indoors, the main screen displays whatever's outside, and you would have usually the gamepad would display whatever's on the inside. So you're running on the inside doing things like flipping, turning knobs and flipping levers and that sort of thing. It's impacting things on the outside. So maybe you need to go through a path or go find secret things, whatever. But the thing is, when you're playing on the gamepad, you can bring up a little mini screen on the gamepad to still access those bits of gameplay, because there's points where you have to do that sort of thing. So you can pull the whole game down to the gamepad, even though it's kind of going to diminish your experience. It really pays to have the entire thing on the main TV still. But there is a lot of functionality.
And my biggest argument, I think, with Wind Waker HD, which I mentioned, was uninterrupted gameplay. And I think, John, once again, if you ever play through Wind Waker HD, especially.
Oh yeah, to be fair, I definitely did say I was talking out of my ass when I was talking about the Wii U, because I've never even interacted with one.
Yeah, exactly. We're all on the same side. So if anything, we're going to be in violent agreement about most of this. But I really think it's so hard to convey fully the impact that has. There were other tweaks to Wind Waker HD, but man, just the difference between any other Zelda game I've played and being able to constantly just go. That second screen, any game that I think utilizes that second screen in such a way that allows completely uninterrupted or almost fully interrupted gameplay, just really changes the entire pacing. I mean, just think of Resident Evil games and pausing and going through inventory, and any game you can think of where you have to pause for any reason is better on the Wii U. Yeah,
and I mean that's one of like the big draws of Zombie U, a game I haven't played. But one of the big draws is that the and other games have done this, but this is the first game where you've had to look at somewhere else other than the main game screen. Is when you pause it, you're not actually pausing the game. You are, like, your character's opening their backpack and you're having to search through that for various items. Meanwhile, there's stuff moving within the game world, right? So you could have a zombie coming up to attack you and you would have to be looking in your backpack and not able to see what's going on until it was too late. So that uninterrupted gameplay has some really interesting uses. Like, that's a very interesting way to use that mechanic.
Yeah.
Right? So, like, I'm on board with that kind of stuff. I think that's great.
Damn it, John, why do you hate Nintendo?
So, Nintendo is one of the worst companies. Seriously. That I think they are greedy. They are capitalist. I know, they're capitalistic. They hate puppies.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah,
they would never have a baby sex party, though.
No, they wouldn't.
So there's that.
And they're not invited to mine either.
Sorry, Jamie, were you going to say something relevant?
Well, yeah, there were two games I wanted to bring up that use the gamepad in sort of the whole uninterrupted gameplay sort of function. And surprisingly, one of those is Call of Duty Black Ops 2. The other one is Monster Hunter 3 Ultimate. Now, in Call of Duty, I'm going to bring this up because there's a couple of things that really set it apart. For one, at any point, you can actually go through your different character builds on the gamepad while playing. So you can actually go through there and select, well, maybe I want to be a sniper next. And you just click it, and you're going to be a sniper next time you respawn. You have the full map on the gamepad at all times, as opposed to little snippets of it like you would normally. So you can see where people are firing, and you can see the full UAV map, the whole thing.
No way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, no, sorry, that is fucking game changing. Yeah, no, John, oh wow. Yeah, okay, sorry, keep going.
Also in Call of Duty, when you get your perks, all three of them show up right on your gamepad, and you can use them in any order. So if you have a UAV, and you have a Predator missile, and you have a chopper of some sort, you could use the Predator missile first, and then you could use the chopper, and then the UAV if you felt like it. Whatever order you wanted to use, they're just right there to just press and select and go.
Okay. I like that. I like those differences quite a bit.
Right.
Obviously.
Right. And going over to Monster Hunter, what's interesting about that one is on the gamepad, you're able to completely customize what you want to show there. Because you're essentially given X amount of space to actually put tiles into. And you can swap the tiles in and out, you can move them around. So if you want to display your items, you can do that. If you want to display your map over here, you can do that. If you want to display this or that or the other information or your crafting, you can just display what you choose to in customizable tiles.
And I've never played a Monster Hunter game, but John, you've played that series, correct?
I have not. It's actually been a series that I've always been a little interested in, but again, it's a very high barrier to entry.
Right.
It's a very complex game. It's one that kind of requires outside reference to really get the most out of.
Really?
So, yep.
Oh, yeah. Unless you start from the beginning. Because if you start from the beginning, there are tutorials and basic hunts that really help you out. Because I've never played one before this one. And the demo honestly turned me off, but I had friends on Google Plus that convinced me to buy it. And what I found was, have either one of you ever played Phantasy Star Online?
No.
Yes, on the Dreamcast.
Yes. This is like Phantasy Star Online on crack.
Okay.
That's exactly how the gameplay is. Because you got 4 people going into general zones, hunting down monsters, and the gameplay is even fairly similar. But there's customizing, there's item crafting, there's a full story. You kill monsters and you make armor and weapons out of their skin. It's actually really awesome.
Wow. Yeah. No, that sounds really awesome, and now I kind of want to play that too.
Yeah, I mean it's the kind of game where you can put 200 hours into it.
Easy.
Like farming stuff and crafting stuff. So it's one of those. I mean, Monster Hunter is the game that solidified the PSP in Japan as like the handheld juggernaut that it became there, because people played Monster Hunter and only Monster Hunter.
Yeah.
On that system. So, like that system would not have sold if it didn't have Monster Hunter on it in Japan. So I mean, it's a significant thing. It's a significant game. It's like an important franchise.
Yeah, Monster Hunter 4 recently came out in Japan on 3DS, and not only has it moved 500,000 3DS units to this point, the game itself has sold 2.5 million copies in just a couple weeks.
Well, okay, now I have to get Monster Hunter. Thank you for ruining my wallet, Jamie.
Well, you're welcome. Go ahead and add me on WiiU. I'll walk you through it.
Hey, to be fair, if you buy it, it gives you 200 hours of entertainment, right? So, I mean, you can't complain about the amount of time you got on there.
That is a good return on investment, although I've already dumped like 20 hours into Rogue Legacy, and that was like $4.
That's true.
So, no, it was 8. I lied. It was 8, but still good.
Yeah, it's good. It's good to hear. It's good to hear that there is worthwhile stuff on the Wii U. Like I want that, because I want there to be more reasons for me to buy one.
Yeah, there really is a lot of worthwhile games on there. There really is. And a lot of the multi-platform games are better on the Wii U just because the gamepad just adds that extra dimension to it.
I hope they can keep the steam rolling with getting their third-party developers to continue to commit to make games for it. Because that's a thing that the Wii kind of tapered off on, unfortunately. Like, they had all this third-party support, when it very, very first came out, and then it completely died off towards the end of that Wii's life cycle. So hopefully they can at least kind of cajole a few more third-party developers to come over to the Wii U and try it out.
Yeah, I mean, the unfortunate thing is, and this is something I've discussed on the other podcast at times, is that, it wouldn't matter if Nintendo had the most powerful system out there. I mean, third-party support would still be flagging just because Nintendo games tend to just sell so much that they, unfortunately curtail what the third parties can do on the system. It's not necessarily that Nintendo fans wouldn't buy these games, but Nintendo fans aren't always interested in whatever the most derivative shooter on the market is that's popular. Those don't typically sell well on Nintendo systems, unfortunately. I mean, we could use a hell of a lot more third-party support, but I'm happy getting the occasional Splinter Cell because Blacklist was awesome. I'm looking forward to Watch Dogs. Ubisoft luckily has a lot of support right behind the Wii U. We could definitely use more. Like Square Enix would be great on the system.
I mean, to be fair, the Wii U could have made some smarter decisions in that they could have smarter, at least in my opinion, in that they could have used the same architecture that the Xbox One and the PS4 would be using, so that developers would have an easier time developing for it. They could have juiced the system a little more, charged more money for it, which would have given a better parity in terms of the systems, because what that would allow would be developers to say, hey, it's not going to actually take that much to develop a game for this system, and we could just throw in some extra utility using this gamepad, and then you really would have similar games with just this extra gamepad to increase whatever the developer chose to use it as, right?
Right.
But unfortunately, because the system isn't as powerful as these other systems, there's really not that choice for the developers to make, because they can't get their game. They will physically not be able to get their games on this system because it's not powerful enough. And so I think that would have been a better decision.
Right. Well, here's the funny thing about that, because the x86 that the Xbox One and PlayStation 4 are running off of, they're essentially just PCs. One way or another, that's the way to cut it.
Right. Yeah.
And games released on PCs have a wide variety, a wide range of what's acceptable for it to run on. Now, Nintendo's also made it incredibly easy for developers through, I can't remember the name of the program or whatever they have. They actually have a program that lets developers very easily port a game to the Wii U with little time, little effort, and little cost. But developers are the ones that are either not putting features in these games, or they're pulling them all together. Like Crysis 3, Crytek said they had it running on the Wii U, and it was finished, and it was ready to publish, and EA decided to pull the game. And, at the same time they released Mass Effect 3 on the Wii U, instead of actually releasing the Mass Effect trilogy like they did on the other systems, they just released the third, and they didn't have any extra features for it, and they didn't give any downloadable content for the game for multiplayer or anything. So, I mean, we've got publishers that are putting out stripped-down ports, unfortunately, when they don't have to, but they don't think it's going to sell, and the truth is, if we're getting stripped-down copies, it's not going to sell. The new Batman game is coming out as an example of that, because Warner Brothers pulled the online multiplayer out of it, which for a Batman game, I don't think is really necessary anyway, but Amazon's taking the smart route with that, and they're actually cutting the price by $10 over their consoles. So, I mean, the cheaper price is going to help with the sell, but, people don't want to buy stripped-down ports, because most gamers these days do have multiple consoles, and if they can get the better version on a different console, that's where they're going to buy it. So it's third-party developers putting out stripped ports on Nintendo consoles, and then crowing about how their games aren't selling on Nintendo consoles. It's kind of a false dichotomy there.
Yeah, it's a bit of a chicken and egg situation.
That's exactly right. It's a chicken and egg thing, because who's to say that Nintendo didn't seal their own fate by creating the system that they did, right? So,
but at the same time, it's funny you mentioned Batman, because I'm going to get Arkham City on the Wii U because of the additional functionality in the gamepad. I missed the boat on Arkham City. Yes, I know it came out on Wii U a year after it was released, and yes, I know now it's 2 years after it was released, but I missed the boat, and guess what? I'm going back, and I'm probably going to pay close to full price for it on the Wii U when it's much cheaper on other consoles, because I want that extra experience. So for me, it does pay off. Like developers, like you said, developers put a little extra work into it, use some of those little extra features, and I'll buy it.
Right. Like, I'm excited for Watch Dogs because Ubisoft is talking of Watch Dogs. You know, for one thing, they're saying the Wii U version graphically is going to fall somewhere between current gen and next gen. And they're really excited about what they're able to do with the hacking mechanic and the gamepad. And that's what I'm really anxious to see.
I'm all for it. I told you. I think the gamepad has some awesome uses that people smarter than me should be able to figure out. And, like, I want them to use it in that way.
Can you say anything positive? All you do is talk about how much you hate Nintendo, how horrible it is, how you wish that you keep talking about Mario choking on pasta and dying, and you're sick.
He takes too big of bites, man. I've always said that.
Well,
look, I have always said that.
You have always said that. I literally cannot argue with you on that point, so I won't. And with that, look, we're out of time. We're running out of time, or we're pretty much out of time. We're kind of out of time.
We're actually not on a schedule, but I think we're out of time.
I just feel like the Wii U discussion is coming to a natural close, and I don't want it to drag out longer than it needs to, like the Matrix movies. Because the first one was good. If they had stopped there, it'd be a classic, but they didn't.
Well, the first one's still a classic, right? That's not arguable. The first one's still great.
It was tainted by the others.
They had to go and ruin it with Reloaded.
You're saying you don't like the taint?
I don't like. Do you
want to cleanse the taint?
Boy, I don't know if I'm going to let that one slip past the censors.
Okay, well, if they had cleansed the taint, is what you're saying.
I am the censors. Listen, we also have to address briefly the Plants vs. Zombies 2 sweepstakes, which we said we would announce the winner on today's episode.
We did.
But here's the problem with that, is that I said we'd announce the winner and you have until Wednesday, October 9th to enter. But we're pre-recording this episode, which will go live on October 9th. So if somebody writes a review on October 8th, then they're not included in the drawing, even though we said we'd announce it. So officially the cutoff date to enter...
I think you get in really big trouble if you do not follow your sweepstakes entry rules. Like, I think that's a legitimate big problem.
If I don't follow my own?
Right. So that's why you need to follow this.
So that's why I'm following it.
I know, that's what I'm saying.
That's what I'm saying.
I'm agreeing the out of what you're saying.
Stop arguing with everything I say.
I'm agreeing so hard right now.
God, Jamie, do you see what I have to deal with every week?
I don't know how you do it, man.
So listen, just in case we were unclear in the last episode, write us an iTunes review by Wednesday, October 9th, and you will be entered in a chance to win Plants vs. Zombies 2 swag, which will be announced on the next week's episode, which is October 16th.
No, he says write this by October 9th, but you'll be listening to this on October 9th. So
you have all night.
Oh, I see. By day's end.
By midnight, the night of Wednesday, October 9th.
It's far too complicated of a contest.
This is the Jamie entered it, so good luck to you, Jamie.
Appreciate it.
You're in the running. So there's that. So you know one person's written a review, but not a zillion people. So your chances are better than winning the lottery, but I would say worse than waking up tomorrow morning.
See, and the podcast super fan's gonna end up winning it. Watch.
Hey man, knock on wood. I'm gonna Instagram video the physical act of choosing the winner. I don't know. I'm gonna roll like a 6-sided die or something, depending on how many entries we get.
Yeah, you'll figure out a fair way to do it, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'll Instagram video it, so you can actually watch the evidence at Instagram.com/CodyGoff. Just follow Cody Goff on Instagram. It's just my first and last name. It's on our Google Plus and Tumblr pages. It's not hard to figure out. Follow me on Instagram, and you can check all that stuff out. So there's that.
See, what you should do is you should get 12 different cats and put person's name on each of the cats, and then run the vacuum cleaner And then after that, whoever's cat you find first is the winner. That makes it a little more interesting. And more prone to bodily harm.
My God, put the names inside the cat's stomachs and cut the cats open?
Jesus.
What is wrong with you?
First baby sex parties, now cutting open cats. Where has this podcast gone?
It's October, everybody. Halloween.
I think I heard something completely different than what you said.
You know, I don't know anymore. I literally don't know anymore. Jamie, I want to give you one more chance to plug your podcast and writing endeavors. And your book. Is your book about video games?
It's not about video games, actually. It's a work of fiction regarding superheroes of sorts.
What's your book called? I want to read your book now.
All right, my book is called Superpowered. It's available on Kindle. It's available on Nook, available on Kobo, and also on Google Play.
Well, thank God this is not a writing podcast, because you were clearly qualified as a writer. Whew. Dodged a bullet that one. On that one. That time. Dodged a bullet. A bullet was dodged. Yes, thank you. And you can be heard on the Quan Manchu's podcast, which is called Gamers at Large?
Yes, Gamers at Large podcast.
Yes, and they can read about... Where do you write again?
I write in the WiiU and Nintendo Wii U and 3DS Google Plus group, and also a lot of what I write there ends up going to playeressence.com as well.
Playeressence.com. All right. And John, where can people find you?
You can't. Oh, actually, you can follow me on Twitter if you want. Don't tweet a lot. You'll occasionally see something. It's at EatPlayGame. Or you can find me on our Google Plus page, which we've plugged repeatedly, as well as our Tumblr page, which we've plugged repeatedly.
And are you still ever twitching? Do you twitch still?
So, again, it is something that I want to get back into. It is something that I have not had a lot of time to do. So, yes, I will twitch. I will twitch everywhere. I want
to get a converter box that will allow me to stream my console games, because I got Deadpool on the PS3, which is fantastic, but I really want to stream the whole game. So keep an eye out for that, and I'll get to that eventually. And you know what? It's funny. We close. You can find us on Twitch TV at twitch.tv/unqualified podcast, but I completely spaced on this for the weekend. I was at home Friday night. Some plans. I was so indecisive about what to do that night. I ended up staying home, played some Civ 5 with a friend. Around 1 a.m., he says, I gotta go. I'm watching the League of Legends championships. I'll probably pass out to it. I'm like, okay. So I went on Twitch TV, and it was the final series for the championship of the League of Legends World Championships.
It was. I got to watch the first match of that.
Right. So because it was on hella late. Like, it was probably 2:30 a.m. when I finished. And it was live from the Staples Center in Los Angeles, California.
Which is where the Lakers play. I think I might have talked about this when I was talking about the streaming stuff.
You may have, but I just wanted people to know. I thought this was kind of funny. I was up, at 2 in the morning, right, Central Time, and over 500,000 people were watching the stream.
So briefly then, what did you think of the legitimate professional gaming stream with commentary?
It was amazing. It was just like any professional sport. I think that whomever was in charge of that production really knows what they're doing. They are becoming better storytellers. I've read a lot of articles about pro gaming and how it can do a better job of emerging, and it's all about the stories. People watch American Idol for those stupid little, those stupid little bios, and it's like, oh, my mom died, and blah, 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 I overcame this sickness, and now I'm here to sing. That's what people are into. That's what draws in audiences. Even with the NFL and the NBA and other sports, you hear their personal stories a lot, and I've watched some professional gaming that doesn't really touch on that. League of Legends had the video packages. There was the punter for the Minnesota Vikings did a video package.
Chris Cluey, he's the former punter, and he is a strong advocate for both professional gaming as well. He's a huge World of Warcraft player.
Yeah, and League of Legends apparently. So he's a big advocate. So they had a big interview with him, and it had a bunch of gamers talk about that, and I think pro gaming is going to get pretty legit in the next decade, and I'm really excited for it. And granted, there were a zillion of these viewers. I mean, a lot of them are in South Korea and Australia and England and Europe and random places where it wasn't the middle of the night. But I'm guessing there were also a lot of Americans, too, up in the middle of the night on a Friday night watching a live stream of League of Legends. So I thought that was pretty cool. And I didn't understand a damn thing they were saying, but just based on listening to the podcast that you and I did where you talked about League of Legends, I could kind of tell what was going on with the lanes and the bushes and things like that. So thank you for that 101. That wonderful 101. You see what I did there, Jamie?
I see what you did. I'm picking up what you're putting down.
Because you reviewed the wonderful 101. So, John, let me explain this to you.
I'm sniffing what you shit on the ground. But that's not how that goes.
Well, that was sexual.
That was sexual. That was very sexual.